You've been hunting for a guitar that feels solid enough to survive gig after gig, easy enough to dial in after a quick warm-up, and priced so you don't have to beg for a raise just to keep it in tune. The truth is, most signature models promise a flashy name and a paint job, but they can leave you with a neck that's a nightmare to play or a tremolo that never quite settles. That's the exact hesitation that makes me pause before I click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Ibanez LB1 Lari Basilio signature in that eye-catching violet finish is one of those guitars that shows up in store windows because it looks like a piece of art, yet it also carries a reputation among players who need something reliable for everything from bedroom practice to small club sets. The first thing I wanted to know was whether the vibe on paper translates into a day-to-day experience that actually saves you time and money, instead of becoming a project you're constantly tweaking. Let's start with the basics that matter once you plug it in. The body is a classic solid body design, which means you won't get the feedback issues you sometimes see with thinner, semi-hollow guitars when you crank up the amp. That's a real benefit if you're playing in a band that leans into high gain or you just like to push the volume without worrying about that squeal. The maple fingerboard gives you a bright attack that cuts through a mix, especially useful if you're layering rhythm parts with other guitars. The pick guard is unobtrusive, so the violet finish stays the star of the show without a lot of clashing hardware. Now, the pickup layout is where the #1 gets interesting. You have a humbucker in the bridge position paired with two single coils in the middle and neck slots. In practice, that gives you a surprisingly versatile palette. When I sat down with a clean jazz rock progression, the neck single coil sang with a warm, articulate tone that felt more like a Fender Strat than a typical Ibanez. Switch to the bridge humbucker for a heavier rock riff, and you get that tight, mid-focused growl that sits nicely under a distorted amp. The middle single coil acts as a bridge single-coil hybrid, which is perfect for bluesy overdriven tones where you want a bit of bite without the full humbucker thickness. The Gotoh tremolo, painted to match the violet body, is the kind of piece that often splits opinion among players. In my testing, the bridge felt stable after a few minutes of playing. The tremolo springs were pre-adjusted to a medium tension, which means you can add subtle vibrato without the bridge hopping out of tune. That said, if you're the type who dives deep into aggressive dive bombs or constantly changes string gauges, you'll need to spend a bit of time setting up the spring tension and maybe installing a few locking nuts. It's not a set-it-and-forget-it tremolo for the extreme whammy bar enthusiast, but for most gigging players who use the bar for flavor, it works reliably. What about setup time? Out of the box, the #1 arrives with a factory-installed bridge, pickups, and a standard set of strings. Most reviewers I've read mention that the neck relief is fairly neutral, which means you can jump straight into a rehearsal without a full truss rod adjustment. If you have a habit of checking intonation, you'll still want to run a quick intonation check before your first gig, but you won't be wrestling with a warped neck or high action that forces you to sand down frets. That kind of plug-and-play readiness is a hidden value you don't see on the spec sheet. Who should buy this? If you're a player who wants a signature guitar that actually serves as a workhorse, whether you're a budding indie songwriter, a jazz rock hybrid, or a metal guitarist who still needs clean tones, this is a solid pick. The versatile pickup configuration means you can cover a wide range of genres without swapping guitars. The aesthetic violet finish is bold but not garish, making it suitable for stage presence without screaming "look at me" to the point of distraction. And because Ibanez has a reputation for relatively affordable pricing on their signature models, you're getting a lot of tonal flexibility for a mid-range budget. Who should skip it? If you're hunting for a pure vintage Strat feel with vintage-style single coils, you'll miss the humbucker's thicker output in the bridge. If you're a shredder who demands a Floyd Rose-style locking tremolo for dive bombs and extreme whammy tricks, the Gotoh tremolo, while smooth, won't lock the strings as tightly as a Floyd Rose. Also, if you have a strict budget of under $300, you'll find the #1 sits a bit higher than entry-level starter guitars, so you might stretch a little farther than you intended. Let's talk about the practical strengths that actually save you money in the long run. First, the dual-coil humbucker paired with two single coils eliminates the need for a second guitar when you need both.